when it comes to target setting is just increasing by a couple of percentages points with reference to the previous year, then this video is for you because I want to share with you the exact way of determining what is the basis for setting targets. Now, setting targets, it's not something that it's a guessing game. It's not something that is just an extrapolation. There are actually bases behind that. And what you need to do, especially as a school staff developer, is that you must be able to articulate what is the basis for setting the targets for your KPIs. And I would just like to mention that the same process can be applied for target setting, for school, for students, and for other goals as well. So when it comes to target setting, essentially you want to ask yourself this question: what is my basis for setting target? Right? And there are three types of basis that you can look at when you are setting target for your KPIs. The first one is what we call historical, and that's looking at past data. So, for instance, if you are measuring, the improvement in terms of your school climate over time, you want to look at the improvement of your staff engagement level over time. Then, what you want to do is you want to set your target based on historical data. And this is where you kind of look at past performances and you extrapolate and say that, well, if the last 2 years we are at 60%, for example, then what we can anticipate if we do things right and if we implement our strategies effectively and we do the right things, we should be seeing an improvement by 10 or 15% in the subsequent years. So this is where you kind of look back at past data and then try to extrapolate from there. Now, sometimes it may not always make sense to look at historical data, and the reason is because comparing one batch of people with another batch of people may not be a fair comparison. So, as an example, if you are looking at percentage of teachers who are competent and confident when it comes to, carrying out e-learning packages, for instance, looking at past data and comparing, the past cohort of teachers with the current cohort of teachers, that may not be a fair comparison. Instead, what you might want to be looking at is what we call expected basis. And this is where you look at comparative data. Now, comparative data can take two forms. One form is that you are looking at comparative data of comparable schools, right? So, as an example, in your school pick, you have comparable school data that kind of gives you an idea of schools that are comparable to you. Where are they at in terms of their teachers' data and teachers' information, right? So that's one aspect of comparative data. Now, another aspect of comparative data, it could be internal comparison data. Now, what I mean by that is that perhaps you are looking at, in the past, you're looking at this group of teachers who are, implementing innovative projects. And right now, in order for you to set a benchmark for them, you are looking at that comparative data to kind of help you ascertain what is the target that you should be setting. Excuse me. Um, so that's comparative data. And the third type of data that you will be looking at, the third type of targets that you'll be looking at is what we call stretch targets. And this is where you perhaps you want to benchmark against a school or an organization that has got best practices, right? And so this is where you want to be able to say that, well, the targets that you're setting is going to be based on stretch and benchmark data, and that kind of gives you a different level altogether. So what I like you to do is, I like you to go back and look at all the targets that you're setting, and to ask yourself for each of those targets, what are the basis for those targets? And then I'll see you in the next video.